Okay, so the Waddinton Diagnostic Standard and Advanced Reading and Spelling Test is something that in intervention support, in the encounter programs and in study skills, we've used to identify students' functional needs in reading and understanding of vocabulary. It is a really helpful tool. It's also very easy to use. And obviously there is not only the standard version, but there's an advanced version.
Cool. So thanks to everyone that's agreed to trial it this year. We had like 2 or 3 teachers last year. Before that, it was only really used in intervention support, as Lauren mentioned. Just in terms of administering the test, it says to allow half an hour, but I've got to admit, my kids the other day, majority had it done within about 12 minutes. Now, looking at their results, they could have spent a little bit more time on it, and they were advised to do that and reread and go back over it, but they were mostly done within 15 minutes. I'd still allow half an hour like it says. I just had a situation where they would just go on with some silent reading, some dirt after that, so that they didn't distract anyone else. So yeah, you administer the test by printing it from the PDF that we've given you. Just make sure you do just the standard reading test 1 to start with. We don't want to do the advanced yet, or the reading test 2. We might do that later in the year.
I'll also explain, I know a lot of off the bat, you probably see it and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like primary level. I usually do a bit of a spiel to my students of, oh, look, I know it probably is super easy. It's just to try and see what you know. Try not to advertise it. I know it says a test, but I try not to advertise it as a test. It's just, we just want to know what you can do, and this is a way to show it. Another thing is if you've got students who are already on a 1 plan who might be a bit slower, you can allow them a bit more time, and I have at times, but just make sure you obviously do it in that sitting. Yeah.
In terms of this, you just get them to put their name. You can get them to put their date of birth if you want, or you can. It's obviously available on sector, and the other stuff is what you're going to enter when you mark it. So in terms of grading it, once you have marked it against the sheet that we've also provided on a PDF, then you will convert it to reading age.
Yep. The reading age is helpful because it kind of gives you that idea that, okay, if they're at a 10-year-old level, they're not going to be at that fully independent reading level. And so it's handy to know in terms of what text types you're going to be using, and if you do need to differentiate in any way for some students. I know as well as in DIRT, you might allow for some other options for those students who are more identified at like maybe a 9 or a 10-year-old level, and you just be a bit more selective around your texts.
So you just use this chart, and then once you've worked out their reading age, which if they get 60 or more, then they're at 12 plus, which should be their reading age if they're a year 7 or an 8. But if they're not, and they're in that 57 to 60 band, it might just be that they needed a little bit of concentration or a small mistake. It might be that they didn't understand an unfamiliar word. So it gives us a bit of an idea of where they're at. Once you've got that, can you please, we're going to add a column to the teachers that have agreed to do this in the Know Your Learner spreadsheet. You can see on this right-hand side here. And just move Lauren and I for a sec. Hopefully that worked because we just disappeared on our screen. And then once you sort it, you can actually have a look at seeing which of the kids are in that high band, which is really just what they should be at for their age with their reading, or the ones that are sort of just below that band that they need to be at, or the guys that are really struggling, which might help inform quite a few of your interventions and groups and QDTP moving forward. Now, the next slide is this, yeah, and we're back.
Yep. So within, obviously there's the test, and that's what all you guys have been given, but the whole Waddinton pack is actually a massive resource, and we have it on the T drive under additional needs, and it's under the Waddinton files. You can pretty much access it. It's a massive document, but we have provided you with some of the most important parts to the assessment. Now, these are the subsections, and this is obviously going to inform your functional needs and your teaching practices. Absolutely. So basically, you can identify skills and functional needs that these students they might be struggling with, or they're things that you can embed within your practice. For example, and now we don't have an example of the page. Yeah.
Looks a bit like this.
Yeah.
So we noticed that on the first 3 pages, most of the kids got most of the questions right. It was really once the visuals were taken out of the picture and the familiar things like poems that they knew before, like Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall and stuff, was once they just had sentences that they had to comprehend with new and unfamiliar vocabulary, that's where we started to see mistakes. And so for questions 36 to 60, the Waddington's sheet that we've given you here with the subsection advice says that potentially this could be due to a low ability to comprehend complex sentences by identifying points using vocabulary for unfamiliar or new topics, or a gap in understanding of extended and technical vocabulary. And for each section, it gives you some possibilities of reasons for why students may have got more things wrong. So it might benefit you to look at what questions your class is getting wrong on the whole, as well as just your students' overall score and reading age. If you have any more questions, see myself or Lauren, and otherwise good luck with the Waddington's reading test. We're going to make another one of these for the spelling test, which we'll hopefully try and get people to carry out in the next week or 2. We cover everything?
I think so.
So
Bye.